My experience of the Hizmet movement is that they are inviting strongly committed Muslims to be involved in the everyday world, not to be pulled apart from it, to be involved in the society. Prior to 9/11, it was very difficult to have a dialogue within the Islamic tradition, partly because there was more of an and then we end up ceasing to be a religion of peace. We end up we become a religion of violence and domination. Dialogue is critically important. Now there's a limited image of dialogue that I want to challenge. The notion of dialogue. I'm Reverend Paul Kottke. I'm senior pastor at University Park, United Methodist Church in Denver, Colorado. I've been pastor there for 20 years, been ordained for 30 years. In the United Methodist Church. I'm a strong advocate for interreligious dialogue across the board. I'm a strong advocate particularly for Muslims having dialogue with Christians, with Jews, with Hindus, with Buddhists. There's been over in the United States over the last 150 years, a strong dialogue between rabbis and Christian pastors. Prior to 9/11, it was very difficult to have a dialogue within the Islamic tradition, partly because there was more of an enclave mindset within the Muslims. And then with 9/11, there was a clear commitment saying we have to break out of this enclave, and I absolutely agree with that. There's another aspect of religion. We see it in Christianity. Sadly, we see it in all religions, sadly. There is this belief that if you are truly passionate about your faith, that you won't even talk to somebody else. They have to come to you and acknowledge that they will begin believing the way you do. And then we end up with these battles. Who has the authentic faith? Which then ends up being the polar opposite of what our faith stands for. And certainly as Christians, I cringe when somebody says, we are faith committed to peace, but you have to come to me. And then we end up ceasing to be a religion of peace. We end up we become a religion of violence and domination. There are those, when I'm committed to dialogue, there are those that criticize me as a Christian pastor. I invited a few years ago an imam to preach from my pulpit. Another Christian pastor said, how could you do that? And I said, do we not believe in the same God? Do we not call ourselves a people of peace? Dialogue is critically important. Now there's a limited image of dialogue that I want to challenge. The notion of dialogue is that two people sit down at a table and they talk about their passionate beliefs. And usually what ends up happening is they start just kind of yelling at each other. They're not listening. Dialogue has to go to a deeper level of relationships. And I think Fethullah Gulen, as the kind of initiator of this movement, helped that to be understood, that dialogue is not me sitting here demanding that my positions be heard. Dialogue is, I have to first be comfortable with myself in my beliefs so that I can then listen to you without being threatened. I particularly follow, or mentor for me in my faith tradition is a Quaker by the name of Parker Palmer. And I think he has a very similar approach to Fethullah Gulen. And he talks about how we need to be, in this 21st century, communities that gently embrace our diversity with each other. We need to be able to listen, and his phrase, it's a wonderful phrase, we need to listen the other into speech. So as I'm having dialogue with you, it's not about me just winning the debate. It's about me listening to what you have to say and perhaps restating it to allow it to be at a deeper level. And then I am able to state what I believe. That's one aspect of dialogue. Another aspect of dialogue is that we spend time together. It's not a matter of coming together for an hour and talking and then leaving. Nothing changes with that. But it's a matter of spending weeks and years together, working on projects, traveling like we did when I was invited. My wife and I were invited to the tour in Turkey. And as we sat in vans together, that's where dialogue occurs, not under kind of the bright lights with microphones with audiences out there, because that's when we start grandstanding. But absolutely, the Hizmet movement, and as I experienced the Mosaic here in Denver, that is deeply committed to bringing people together and to listening to them. And so you have in the Mosaic Foundation here in Denver, a wonderful way in which you've been inviting a variety of the religious voices in Denver to come together and to listen to one another. And then you have a meal and you talk, and there's a gentleness to that rather than, and none of, well, my experience is, and none of those are you using those events as a way of issuing a propaganda. In fact, my experience with these events is that really the Mosaic Foundation never says anything other than welcome. I believe faith-inspired people, particularly in this 21st century, are called to be involved in the lives of our society. I believe we are called, in fact, this is a great passion of mine. Actually, all of my interfaith work is based on this commitment, that we are called to bring health and healing to our society. That our task as faith-inspired people is not to win converts, to grow our churches, our mosques, our synagogues. If we are vital and alive, those will grow. But that's not our task. Our task is to reach out to people that are struggling with meaning in their life. Maybe they're successful, but they're not feeling happy, they're not feeling content. Perhaps they've gone through a struggle with their children. Their children haven't done what they thought they would do. Maybe the children have gotten in trouble with the law, and the family feels real broken at this point. A faith-based leader sits with these people and is not offering judgment about what they did wrong, but support them, help them figure out what they can do given their circumstances. I absolutely believe then that my experience of the Hizmet movement is that they are inviting strongly committed Muslims to be involved in the everyday world, not to be pulled apart from it, to be involved in the society. Now, I'm aware that there's tension in Turkey, and I can understand some tension here in the United States. People are deeply anxious when I, as a pastor, get involved in the public arena. They're afraid that I'm going to start articulating my own beliefs and forcing them into my own beliefs. I have to I have to earn their trust that I'm not coming with a hidden agenda. My agenda is to help them find healing and wholeness. My belief is that some of the tension within Turkey is that it really defined itself as a modern nation, as a secular modern nation, and it's deeply anxious about faith-based people out of the Hizmet movement, that they have a hidden agenda. I can't prove they don't have a hidden agenda, but I don't believe they do have a hidden agenda. And I think in some ways the secular movement of Turkey, now again, I'm not a scholar, the secular movement of Turkey actually is probably more comfortable with the extreme forms of Islam because they can contain those. The more moderate form of Islam that the Hizmet movement offers up, it's harder for them to argue against that. Clearly the Hizmet movement is faith-based, but is not radicalized, I don't believe, and thus really serves the purpose of a healthy country in the modern world. But the secularists are threatened by that, just as they are here in the United States. Our task as religious leaders is to earn their respect and to demonstrate that we're going to bring health and wholeness to the larger group, whether they're faith-based or not. A question asked is, can faith-based people start secular schools? I think, yes, they can. The issue is learning to offer the curriculum in a way that that particular school is expecting it to be offered. Many times I'm involved in secular settings. People ask, what's my motivation? Well, my motivation is God, but I don't have to bring an agenda to that other than helping these people experience a sense of abundance. Education, when it is not this domination of here's a certain set of beliefs that you have to memorize, but when education invites the student into the questions of their lives, I believe gets to the source of the power of our religion and our faith in a more authentic way. Too many people have the image that faith is about just blind obedience. I think faith is the opposite of that. I believe that we should enter into the questions and trust the questions much more than the answer. The question's what's going to lead us to God, to Allah. And so the Hizmet focus on education, particularly as it embraces women and allowing women in the world. I really truly believe in this 21st century that the more women are educated, the less they will allow a system to be abusive. I think that's more true than with men being educated. But certainly the type of education that I understand with the Hizmet movement is they take basically the local curriculum and honor that, but they also have a degree of dedication that they expect of their teachers, and they support the teachers. What we experience here in the United States is that within 5 years, 1 out of 5 teachers will leave the teaching movement because they don't feel support. They feel undermined. They feel cut. They feel like they're being challenged by administration and parents alike. And I believe the Hizmet movement does a much better job of supporting the teachers with being engaged in the life of the students. I'm 100% in support of any type of charity that helps those in need. We have, within the Christian tradition, we have a strong history of that. And in the Muslim tradition, I think there's always been that endeavor to reach out to those less fortunate. My observation is, and maybe it's just that I'm more aware of it, but in the last 10 years, I'm seeing more and more public examples of Islamic relief agencies engaged in the world, and not just for Muslims, but for non-Muslims as well. Absolutely. Reaching out to somebody in need should not have a barrier as to whether they're a person of a particular faith or not. For persons in need. What's interesting is as we engage in this outreach, we often experience our faith in a deeper way. So there is this comeback, if you will. There is this benefit by my reaching out. And I think with the Islamic movement, and particularly the Fethullah Gulen movement, being particularly sensitive to those people in the world that are at risk, I support it 100%.
I think probably the Hizmet movement is based upon family, based upon growing the ideas of how to get along, the ideas of true values, of tolerance, of understanding, of having a oneness with a higher being than yourself.